Hello and welcome to Flutzes and Waxels, a figure skating podcast to satisfy all of your skating news, analysis, and recap needs. I'm Mary Margaret Mertzos.
And I'm Alicia Mertzos, and we're sisters with a lifelong love for figure skating, practicing, watching, and discussing. So let's delve deep into what's happened in the skating world this week.
So we continue our recap of Rostelecom with the ice dance, and this was another one with the high highs, some low lows.
Low lows.
Some really rough Finnsteps, but then some really pretty good free dances.
Yep.
So, it kind of balances out, I guess.
Kinda, sorta. Yeah, those rhythm dances were a problem.
Honestly, that's probably what we're going to wind up talking about more than anything, because that was where the issues were for most of these teams.
Basically everybody.
Yeah. Our winners, as I think we expected coming in, were Sinitsina and Katsalapov, who skated pretty well here. They, I think, improved their personal best by a bit. We've been clear, we're not as big fans of the free dance as the rhythm dance. The rhythm dance I like a lot more. It's a different look for them, which, they're expanding their range a little bit into something a bit more lighthearted and fun. And I think overall
it's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not my favorite rhythm dance by any means, but definitely of the two, I enjoy that one more.
The free dance, as we discussed last time, kind of bland.
Yeah, well skated, which, they got most of their levels, and they, other than the twizzles, which we discussed before.
Well, we need to talk about the twizzles for a second. Mm-hmm. Because judge number 5, in particular, does not know what the rules are. I would argue everybody except for judge number 4 and judge number 9 don't know what the rules are.
I mean, because to be fair, it's written in such a way where, like, you're encouraged. We're talking about the connection. Yes. In case you have not been following our tweets or listened to us talk about the same program last week. You are supposed to have a connection in between the first and second set of twizzles in the free dance that is
interesting and difficult and suits the music, essentially.
Yeah. And it's not a level feature, it's a GOE feature.
Which means that you cannot get a level 5, or a level 5, a plus 5 GOE without a connection that fulfills that requirement.
Which is why, if I were the one giving GOEs, I would not go 4 or even 3, but which is why, technically speaking, the only one where I can say no, that's not okay is judge number 5 with the plus 5, because again, they barely touch. It is not unique or interesting or difficult. It is none of the above.
It is barely a connection.
Yeah.
Remember last week when we had to rewind 7 times to make sure that there was a connection? It's the same because it's only been a week.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating because there are teams doing
way more,
getting way less GOE.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When they made it a requirement, and you can even go back and watch the meeting from Worlds last year when they were talking about the new rules that were going to make you have a connection between the first and second set of twizzles and the free dance, and people were asking, but how are we going to decide what's creative or interesting or whatnot? And, the panel saying, oh no, we're going to enforce that it has to be creative and interesting. That's not happening, obviously. Clearly. Which is why we've been discussing it really should be a level feature.
Yes.
Because then the tech panel has no choice but to say, and again, it's hard because what makes it interesting or difficult? This is an easy case where it's obviously none of the above. There are others that are
more borderline.
Which is why it's a weird rule. I like that we're having different sets of twizzles, but I wish we could reword and change it up at the next Congress, because this is a gigantic loophole that they're taking advantage of, and I don't blame them for it, because if they can get away with it, why not? Why do something harder and risk a mistake? But it's not fair to the teams who are doing harder things,
because everybody else here did something harder than Sinitsina and Katsalapov did.
Yeah.
And almost none of them got GOE anywhere near as good.
Yeah.
Which, when it's a GOE feature, we have to enforce that.
Yeah.
He also bobbled on the second twizzle in the free skate.
Yes.
That was obvious.
Yeah.
So, between the bobble and the lack of appropriate connection that fulfills the spirit, not the words, but the spirit of the rule, should not have been a +4.
Yeah.
It should have been a +2.
Yeah.
At most.
Yeah. And again, you balance between them, but at least in terms of, if you're balancing between for the two partners for GOE, but it's a connection where they both have to do something. They're both not really doing anything. So that's a +5 for those twizzles. Should be out of the question any and all circumstances unless they change it, which they should. Whether they will, who knows?
Won't, because they got a level 4 and a +5.
Yeah.
They got a single +5, but the rest were basically +4.
And this is where it gets a little hard in ice dance, because again, it's subjective in a lot of ways. This is a brand new rule, and it's hard to think of all the cases and exceptions when you're writing it. But I mean, at least ice dance, we update things every single season, because this is a rule that needs an update ASAP.
We need to provide, at the very least, examples of what is considered difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Because interesting and fitting the music
and creative are so subjective that they barely mean anything.
Yes. But we need to give examples of difficult.
Yep.
Going into dance hold can be considered difficult.
Or doing some kind of lift, some kind of spinning, drag, yeah.
Anything rotational, anything with actual turns.
Or even just changes of arm position where you're in contact, something like that. Like, there are lots of ways you can interpret that rule. And we've seen that from most other teams.
Everybody else is doing something different that is at least somewhat more difficult than just skating into your next twizzle.
Yeah. And there are some, for example, junior teams where we have seen sort of this bare connection between twizzles. But they're juniors, so most of them, they're up and coming. And
like, my example was the Japanese juniors. Mm-hmm. He has been doing ice dance for 6 months, and they are doing the same connection.
Yeah.
With the team that just won a senior Grand Prix.
It just won 2.
Just won 2 senior Grand Prix this season. Excuse you?
Yeah. And maybe it feels like we're harping on this, but this is a thing that, for me at least, really frustrates me.
Because this impacted the results of this program.
And to be fair, it probably wouldn't have been definitive if they had, at the very least, again, it's not a level feature right now, but if they've received appropriate GOE on it, it wouldn't have changed placements or anything like that. But at least then you're sending a message to this team. You need to fix this. Yeah.
Because right now, why would you change it?
Yeah.
They keep getting good GOE on these twizzles that are scary to watch and don't meet the requirements of a GOE feature.
And that's the thing. Reward them for all the other stuff that they do well, because other than those twizzles, they skated pretty much everything else really well. They, looked confident and comfortable, and they always have pretty strong lifts and things. It's just those twizzles, and especially since they open with it.
Yep. And especially because of who else was here. Mm-hmm. Like,
Well, and again, to be fair, on the senior ranks, it's basically them with not much of a connection. I can't think of anybody else in senior off the top of my head.
But I mean, even like Gilles and Poirier were here, they were second. They have a moderately difficult connection.
It's not the most difficult, but it's also a connection, a clear connection.
It's a clear connection. There's some interesting and difficult elements of it. It is far from the most difficult. They also competed against Kalischek and Spidyriev, who he drags her across the ice the way that Carrera and Ponomarenko do, basically. In between the twizzles.
Yep.
That is stupid hard.
Yeah.
And Kalischek and Spidyriev did not get nearly the GOE that Sinitsyn and Katsalapov did.
Yep.
And
partly that's because you do something harder, it's harder to do the twizzles well. But that's why it's a rule that they're enforcing this year, that we want to challenge these teams. And I'm all for challenging them, but we got to make sure that the judging in this case and tech calling in other cases is applied appropriately.
Yes, which is why it should be a level feature. Require that if it's not difficult and or interesting, that they can't get more than a level 2 on their twizzles.
And especially if you put it to the tech panel, the 3 of them have to talk to each other anyway. They say, have a vote. Who agrees it ticks all those boxes, and you need a majority.
Yeah.
And just do it that way.
2 out of the 3 of them have to agree that it was difficult and or creative.
Yeah.
This fulfills neither of them clearly.
Yeah.
Then they lose a level or 2. Ideally 2. because we need to incentivize.
Well, or, one for each kind of a thing.
Give them a substantial deterrent from doing this, because I didn't want to come in here and talk about this again for 10 minutes. Well,
and to be slightly fair to them, they obviously couldn't change anything because they were competing back to back. We'll see. Maybe we'll be proven wrong, and maybe they'll, do something more difficult in between. The thing is, I think they very much could. Maybe it might even help them a little bit because he gets a little wild going into the twizzles. If you force him to take a pause, slow down a little bit for the connection, and then start again, it might make it easier to do. Better. Yeah.
But, I mean, my problem is they have no incentive, because even though they weren't visually appealing, he almost fell over, and they didn't have a connection, they got mostly +4s.
Yeah.
The judging panel should have given them the incentive to fulfill the requirements.
Yes.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
So why would they change it?
Oh, I know. I don't disagree.
You are much more optimistic about this than I am.
Well, the only thing that I wonder is we've, heard about before where, they won't get whatever ding for something that's potentially a problem in this competition. But, the officials and the coaches and stuff, they talk and they say, wow, they really didn't have much of a connection there, didn't they? Isn't that a rule that they're supposed to have? And then next time the judges are thinking about it. And so maybe next time, because they're thinking about it, it's in their mind, oh, yeah, they really don't have that, it's a bit more insidious than, just... immediately, oh, this is maybe a problem, we should fix it. But if you're a team who wants to succeed, if you even hear any bit of maybe this doesn't quite fit the rules, maybe next time you could get a ding on it, then you should change it just for your own safety's sake.
They should. I would love to see them do it, because I don't want to complain about this at every event that they're at. Please change it. Please.
Yeah.
You could totally do it before the Grand Prix final.
To be fair, that's not that long. But again, if that's all you're changing.
It's one thing in your program.
Yeah.
It's 2 seconds of your program. You can change it in the 2.5, 3 weeks before the final.
Yeah.
That's plenty of time to change literally 2 seconds of your program.
Yep. We will see. But they are in the final. And we should move on, since we've been talking about this for way too long. But also in the final, for the first time in a good few years, are Gilles and Poirier.
Yeah.
Who, not only that, but, will qualify in the top half, most likely, with a first and a second. And they beat Hubble and Donahue on total points, which was the tiebreaker. They did really well here as well. And I think they didn't have any major mistakes or anything per se. They didn't get quite as high, GOE and PCS as Sinitsyn and Katsalapov. But I think for them, this is the first time in a good while
they've had 2 clean GPs.
I was about to say that they have not had a horrible mistake in one of their Grand Prix at least. So that's a win. Take it and run with it.
Honestly, even if they hadn't made the final, which they have, but just had 2 Grand Prix where they didn't have a fall or something.
Yeah. That's improvement. That's big improvement.
Do we remember last year on that Tango Romantica?
Oh, I mean, we were there in person, so we certainly remember. But it's been multiple years. It's happened a lot.
Every year for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Because it's been 5 years since they've been in the final.
Yep.
And every year they've been a contender for it. Yep. But they make a dumb mistake on a step sequence and fall.
And that's the thing. To have no dumb mistakes is a big thing. And I hope is good for their confidence going in. Again, even though they were second, they seemed happy with it. I think they kind of expected to be second here. I think we all did. But even just, things like the Finnstep, that's probably their weakest point, and the thing that if I were them getting ready for the final, that's what I would spend all of my time on. But
one other thing, the Finnstep and the 1 foot step.
Yeah, that too.
That's the other thing that needs some work. But that's 2 elements between 2 programs to work on.
Well, and I was going to say, they have been coming from behind, I think mainly due to that Finnstep the last couple, their Grand Prix and also last season, which is why I think the Finnstep's not bad. And I think it's improved since like Autumn Classic, but it could still use some work. And if you're not coming from behind, they have done very well in the free dance this season. So even if the 1 footstep still stays at a level 2 and a level 3 like they got here, that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. At the final, though, they're gonna want to get at least 2 level 3s on that.
Yes.
Just to be in that conversation.
Yep.
Because they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they very much are. They've shown what they're capable of when they don't make stupid mistakes.
Yep. And what they're capable of is incredible.
Yep.
I mean, these programs are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them.
Yeah.
And they could not be more different.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're showing good versatility, and they're different from their programs last season.
And they're different from what a lot of other people are doing this season. Not a lot of people are going full vaudeville Broadway in that rhythm dance. And these 2 are. They've got the invisible top hat dance and all.
And tap dancing. And it's just really fun, and it suits them, but it also very much fits into the requirements for this rhythm dance. I am a big fan of both of these programs, and I think they're excellent vehicles. Everything I think is going along the track they need it to. Just continue on this road and don't make any more dumb mistakes.
And they are setting themselves up to finally get their national title.
Yes, that I kind of expect it'll happen, knock wood, but you can't make any mistakes and finally be Canadian champions after all these years.
Because they deserve it.
Yeah.
They have been so close so many times.
Yeah.
They deserve it. As much as I want Fournier Baudry Sorensen to also be Canadian national champions, they need to wait a year.
I mean, well, yeah, and also it's only their second Canadian championship, so
they can wait a year.
They can take another step up the podium, and that'll be good.
And then every year going forward, those 2 teams can flip flop.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll be happy.
Yep. So those were our top 2, which were pretty clear cut coming in.
Yeah.
The battle for the bronze was going to be more interesting, I thought. Hurtado and Kalyavin took it fairly easily due to, again, other rhythm dance mistakes. To be fair, they had their own share of rhythm dance mistakes. There were some really bad Finnsteps in that rhythm dance.
Yeah. This rhythm dance was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. Nobody did their Finnstep well. Most people didn't do their pattern step well.
Yep.
It was not fun.
Yeah. And I mean, for these 2, I would have given them an interruption on the Finnstep on their first key points, for hers and his. She had a stumble. The steps were interrupted. That's what an interruption is.
Inviting them to join the Finnstep Level B club. Mm-hmm. There were a few others.
He got his very last one, but that was it. And then in the partial step, they had a separation, which is also a big no-no.
Level 1 and a level 2.
Yeah.
Which
it was
the separation. It doesn't look like that big a deal because it's just an S in the info column. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Like, that is a huge problem.
Yeah, because it's ice dance. You got to be in touch with your partner the whole time, and especially since it's not like the Finnstep where the steps are prescribed.
Yeah, and there's a choreographed.
Here, you kind of have no excuse because you can do whatever you want as long as you're touching your partner the whole time.
Yeah, it's a pattern dance. Guys, pattern dances are usually not that hard because there's usually like 3 difficult turns in the pattern. Yeah. That's basically all they had to do. Yeah. They had to have a few more difficult turns, but the pattern dance step should not be this hard, guys.
Yeah, it's funny too because I don't know what their rhythm dance looked better earlier on in their challengers. I don't know what's been going on these past 2 Grand Prix. Maybe it's just nerves going in, but they looked much better in the free dance at least.
The free dance was better.
Yeah, and you can tell they're just more comfortable with this style. Obviously, she is just shining in this free dance.
I mean, they're both serious people, although I can't take him especially seriously in that costume with the sleeves that go flap, 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 flap the whole time.
Yeah, it's a little, both of them are a bit much. I like hers a bit more seeing it again the second time. I think we can even just cut down the sleeves just a little bit, a little less flappy.
The only thing I need from her dress is to get rid of the strings.
Yeah.
Because the combination of the sleeves flapping in the wind and her strings, I was like, we're about to have a costume malfunction.
Yeah.
So get rid of the strings on her dress. The sleeve is a bit overmuch for me, but whatever. And get rid of his sleeves. Just rip them off.
Yeah.
Put him in a puffy white tank top. That would be better than this.
Well, or just, plain white shirt and like, I don't know, fancy vest or something.
Yeah. Give him a normal ice dance costume. I have a hard time focusing on what they're doing because the costumes are so distracting.
Well, and the other thing too is like there's a lot of very precise arm movements going on, and you can't really have as precise arm movements when your arms are flapping in the wind due to your sleeves, and so it takes away from the choreography of it.
These costumes are ruining this free dance. I know that sounds dramatic, but it takes a huge chunk of the stylistic element out of the running. It's not effective. It distracts you from what they're actually doing because there's so much going on. And you're worrying about a costume malfunction because he's also got suspenders and his shirt is sheer, which you can't do.
Unless you have suspenders that cover the nipples, and then you're okay. That's why they're there.
That's the entire reason that they're there. Because if you didn't know this, and that's another thing we're going to talk about in a minute, you are not allowed to have any of basically the distinguishing features of your torso on show.
So no belly button, no nipples.
Yeah. For both partners.
Yes.
Which is why he wears suspenders, because the shirt is entirely sheer.
Yeah.
And he has to have something to cover them up. Which is the other reason I'm like, but costume malfunction. That could happen at any moment where your suspenders shift.
It's just an unnecessary risk. Just get plainer costumes.
Yes.
It'll be fine. I know it's ice dance, but you'll be fine. And especially since I do really love this free dance. It's a great vehicle for them.
Let the free dance speak for itself.
Yeah. We don't need extras piled on top of it. It's already really detailed and intricate.
Yeah.
It just goes a bit over the top with the costumes.
And over the top costumes are usually a cheap trick to distract from lack of quality in your skating.
Yeah, which they don't need.
That's not a problem here. Don't.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Although obviously Rostelecom is a good competition for them, since this is the second year in a row they've gotten bronze, and pretty solidly so.
Yeah.
I think the Battle of the Spanish Ice Dancers is still going strong. I still don't know which one will win, but they will have to fix up that rhythm dance though if they want to.
That can never happen again if they want to beat Smart and Diaz, because Smart and Diaz have an excellent rhythm dance,
or at least they have been of late. They had some rough patches in the beginning of the season, but they seem to have fixed it up.
Well, and the program as a whole, I think, is much stronger than Hurtado and Kaliavins.
Yeah, for me, Smart and Diaz win the rhythm dance program wise, and Hurtado and Kaliavin win the free dance program wise. Yeah, and then we'll see how it comes out in the wash.
Yeah, so get your rhythm dance together.
Yep. Fourth here were Kalischek and Spadiriev, who I think had a shot to be that third place on the podium.
They definitely had a shot.
They as well, with the disastrous Finnstep and the rhythm dance.
That Finnstep was so bad. It does not look as bad on the protocol as it actually is, because how they got positive GOE from 2 judges, I will never understand.
Yeah, again, just not...
If you missed it, after the first 2 key points, he just disappeared out of frame for a minute. They just separated, no longer in touch, not next to each other, shadow dancing, doing the steps, and then came back together for the final key point. They missed the connection on those twizzles they do in opposite directions where they grab hands. And then he vanished for a second and then came back. I almost even wondered, because you see sometimes, in practice, teams will do it this way. I'm just practicing my steps. I'm not practicing it in hold. It almost looked to me like they had a bit of a brain fart moment of oh, we'll just do it like we do in practice. Oh, wait, it's competition. We can't separate here. Which, if that's the case, really? But otherwise, I don't understand how that happened, because it wasn't like they were scrambling to try and catch each other's hands.
Yeah, they were just skating next to each other for a little while, which was why I thought maybe we just had a moment of just forgetting what we're even doing, because you can't separate. Like, even if you're just holding hands, you're still not in the proper positioning, but it's better than just not even trying.
Yeah. And so they got a B because he got his last key point, but then they got an interruption for not being in hold.
Yeah. And middlingly negative GOE. I mean, it could have been worse, but
I would have gone worse.
Yeah.
I would have gone with at least a -3, because that was not a small problem.
Yeah.
And it was a long problem.
And I mean, it's tough too, because we talked about last time their midline step ends right before the start of the Finnstep, and like she slides between his legs, and then they get up and go into the start of the Finnstep. Like, it's a ridiculously hard way to do it.
But that part went fine this week.
Well, yeah, but I wonder if it does, you can tell, impact their speed.
Yes.
I wonder if maybe that had something to do with it. It's hard to say.
They had already rebuilt their speed on those opening steps, because they're really good at those opening steps that were the key point last time. I really think they just missed hands and were like, oops.
Yeah. Guess we'll just keep going till the next key point, I guess.
Because they weren't off pattern, because like there's a prescribed tracing that you should be following on the ice. They were in line with that. The speed was fine because they rebuild speed in those opening steps. And they didn't flail trying to catch each other's arms.
Yeah, that's the thing. They weren't trying to get back into connection, which...
Oh, guys.
Yeah, it's a shame, but...
This is why you didn't medal here.
Yes.
You could...
It very much is.
Like, it would have been close with the free dance, but you might have medaled.
Yeah.
Had you not just decided not to connect in the Finnstep.
Yeah, because the free dance was a lot stronger. And again, compared to like the last couple seasons at the beginning of the year, they're looking much stronger now than in previous seasons. Still needs a little work on, a couple little elements here or there. We mentioned before their twizzles. They do have a kind of crazy connection in between, which you can see them struggling a little bit with.
Yeah, it slows them down and they struggle, but that's what it's for.
Yeah.
It's supposed to make it harder.
To be challenging.
And the fact that judge number 2 gave them a 0 on those twizzles and Sinitsina and Katsalapov a +4 makes me angry.
I mean, yeah. Well, but that's the thing. Other than the connection, their twizzles were not as strong looking as Sinitsina and Katsalapov, because they're challenging themselves. And because they're, theoretically at least, meant to challenge themselves as part of the rules.
They are fulfilling the requirements of the program.
Yeah.
And it means that it's harder.
Although, to be fair, they could probably do a slightly easier transition. And
let's talk about the transition that they should be doing, because they brought back their Dirty Dancing program again.
Yeah.
I love it though. But the first time they did the lift from Dirty Dancing. It was illegal then.
Yep.
But it is not anymore.
Yes, I've seen some confusion about this. Yes, in ice dance, you can now lift her over his head just as long as he doesn't straighten his arms. So you can do that lift. He just can't fully straighten the arms to do it.
It is absolutely allowed. They can do that lift.
Yep.
Especially because, like, the Dirty Dancing lift, it goes all the way up, but it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
The point is to have that moment, that picture that screams this is a Dirty Dancing program.
And we discussed last week ideas of where to put it, like the character step, but they have the second piece of music for that, and so it wouldn't fit as well. You don't want to risk
adding an extra lift and getting into some trouble with that.
So where should you do it? The twizzle transition.
Yep.
That would be just the greatest thing. Also, it's an easier transition than what they're currently doing.
It is, because he literally just has to pick her up and put her down.
Yep.
But it fits the music. It's difficult.
And creative.
Guys, make that your twizzle transition in the free dance.
I think it would be just... Because, I mean, everybody, even people who don't know that much about ice dance, know that the twizzles are the big thing.
Yep.
And so if you start your twizzles and then you do the dirty dancing lift and then you continue on with your twizzles, it would be just such a big crowd pleasing moment.
The crowd would lose it.
Yes.
Wherever you are.
Yep.
Do you know how much screaming we would do if they did that at Worlds?
I would love it, and I have no idea if they're listening, but come on, guys, you gotta know. You gotta get the dirty dancing lift in there somewhere. And I think that this would be a good spot to make sure you're not, in danger of breaking any rules or having extra elements. It's easier than what you're currently doing.
Uh-huh.
And you could totally, it doesn't even have to take up that much time.
Especially because they knew that this program needed that lift.
Yep.
When they did this initially, the lift was in there when it was illegal.
Yep.
It's legal now. What's wrong with you?
Also, he needs his own pair of kinky boots.
Yes.
I'll give you a pass for this one because you maybe didn't have enough time in between your Grand Prix. But by Europeans, you must have them. Non-negotiable.
I will never forgive him if he does not have his own pair of kinky boots for Europeans.
Yep. And the other thing, they didn't get any knocks here,
yep.
but because she's wearing
a two-piece costume.
Yeah, a two-piece. We got to make sure that skirt stays up over the belly button.
Because they should have gotten a deduction for that. Because defining feature of the torso is the belly button.
Yeah. And it didn't start out, it started out covered, but by the end it was out the whole time.
She very discreetly pulled it back up.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Which, smart choice, not pulling it up and making it obvious.
Yes.
But still getting it pulled up so that hopefully nobody notices.
Yeah.
But we noticed.
Or, wouldn't be my first choice, but you could do like a thick illusion mesh in between the two pieces just to make sure it doesn't move. Even just something like that, just to make sure.
Just make it look like a two-piece, but make it a one-piece.
Yeah.
That's how most skaters do it.
Yes, because they
Ice is
are
cold.
Aware. Well, that too, but also they know gotta have all the bits covered.
It's gotta stay in place.
Yep.
So 3 things that need to happen. We need to make sure that skirt stays in place. We need to get him some kinky boots. And we need to put the dirty dancing lift in.
Yep. All of which are fairly easy to do, I would say. So no excuses.
No, both of you need to take a visit to your costume designer. And we've already given you an idea of where to put the lift in.
Yep.
So, no excuses. You have until Europeans to figure it out.
Yep. 5th here were Reed and Umbrella Vicious, who had a much better outing here than they did in France.
They are really pulling it together.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it's been his twizzles can be a little iffy sometimes, but he got them done here, and especially in the rhythm dance. And they've got 2 really great programs this year, and when they can skate basically clean, it obviously was well rewarded here, and I think deservedly so.
I mean, they really put together 2 good skates.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to get his levels together for the Finnstep.
Yes.
Because he didn't get either of his and she got both of hers.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to be the weak partner at any point.
Well, but then again, he has had much bigger issues than like the twizzles and the 1-foot step. So at least those are fixed. Next step is the Finnstep, but we're on the right track.
We can get the twizzles and the 1-foot step. Now, your weak spot is your Finnstep.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything else was pretty good.
Yeah, they just look more confident here. And maybe, too, they were a last-minute replacement in France, whereas here they were assigned right away. So maybe they were better prepared for this one than last one. But I'm really glad to see them doing well this season. And I'm interested to see where they stack up, but especially Europeans, but Worlds as well.
They are very much in the conversation at Europeans because they beat some pretty big European teams here.
Yeah. I mean, being 5th in a Grand Prix is no small thing for sure. And then 6th were Spilovaya and Smirnov, who were the host spots here. And I think showed that they deserved that spot for sure.
Absolutely. They were the middle Russian team.
Yep. Which is a big thing for...
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, in terms of what they put out on the ice, everything was really pretty good, except of course the Finnstep.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's the Finnstep. Yeah. Everybody was struggling. Theirs wasn't the worst I've seen, not getting the key points, but they didn't look, uncomfortable and awkward with it for the most part.
Nobody almost fell, and they actually made the connection. So,
exactly. It was better than some that we saw in this field. So
it was better than a good few we saw in this field, which we are still getting to those.
Yeah. And I mean, they look so thrilled to be here and are fighting to say, no, we deserve these assignments, Russian Federation. And
we deserve to be in the conversation.
Yep.
And they have thrown their hat in the ring for that third spot to Europeans and or Worlds.
Yep. It's going to be interesting. I kind of have no idea who's going to get that third spot.
But I'm very confident in our top 2 Russian teams. Yes. Who is number 3, though?
It'll be interesting. And I think it's good. They have been passed over before for the Rostelecom host spot. And I think they knew the pressure was on, and they very much delivered here.
I mean, they were thriving under this pressure.
Mm-hmm.
This was better than I expected them to do. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, they're such a fun team.
Yeah.
Sometimes the technical side isn't there as much, but I always enjoy watching them. And I think that being at home and, you know, having the crowd get excited for, you know, especially like a Greece rhythm dance. Everybody loves a Greece program.
Everybody loves a Greece program, guys. It's the most fun for a rhythm dance.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having the time of their lives.
Yep.
And they're so much fun.
Yep.
And they didn't botch their technical elements this week.
Yeah. Again, just the Finnstep, which could have been worse. So,
speaking of could have been worse.
Well, yes. 7th place here, Lejuan Laga, who were the other disaster Finnstep of this rhythm dance.
Guys, we were counting on you to not be a disaster so that we could be secure in who we thought was going to get that 3rd Canadian spot at Worlds.
Still wide open. Still totally wide open.
Had they just done okay in the rhythm dance, I think they would have secured themselves as the top pick for that 3rd spot.
I think, honestly, even if they'd got a level B on the Finnstep, but without his issue and the interruption, I think GOE would have been much higher. They would have been a couple places higher, at least in the rhythm dance.
They would have secured themselves as being the choice over Susis and Firis had they just not been a hot mess here. But they were a hot mess here in the rhythm dance.
I mean, to be fair, it was mainly just that Finnstep. Everything else went okay. And we've talked a lot about the timing. The timing is so hard with Bernstein. And I honestly think that's what threw him up. Where, like, they were going for the opening steps and he seemed to pause for half a second. Like, no, let's get on time. And then caught the toe pick and everything went to wash.
Except Zachary. You cannot start doing the Finnstep and then stop to change your timing because you would have gotten an interruption anyway.
Yeah.
You can't, once you start, you have to commit.
Yeah. Well, that's the hard thing, though. I don't know that there's much more musically they can do to really, like, say, this is the beat you got to be on to do the Finnstep, but it's a really tough piece of music, and I honestly think that was what caused the issue. Like, he was worried about the timing and then caught the toe pick, and then the timing just went totally out the window.
Except again, he had already stopped doing the steps when he tripped.
Well, not really. He was like, he just paused. Like, just that's a timing more than a step issue. That wouldn't be an interruption. That would just be a timing, but it's not a key point anyway. So you're fine for that.
Don't stop doing your Finnstep to check that you're on the right timing.
Or if you're concerned, wait for Marjorie to start and just follow along with what she's doing. If you're that concerned.
Better to be a half a beat behind her and let her get her key points maybe.
Yeah.
Like, commit to not getting yours if you think you've got the timing wrong, rather than trying to fix it and nearly taking both of you down.
I kind of wondered, and I couldn't quite tell if she was sort of singing along, but it almost looked to me like she was counting out the timing. I think that might have been what she was doing.
I'm pretty sure that's what she was doing.
Which, it's hard because I do love a West Side Story program, and the intensity of this program is great, but it makes for a really hard Finnstep.
This was not the year to do a West Side Story program, guys.
And the hard thing is, it's really hard to get a brand new rhythm dance in time for nationals, where again it's going to be a fight. I don't know that I would recommend that, but this is also a tough program to succeed with.
We should have made a decision after high performance camp of like, Are we going to commit to this? And the answer probably should have been no.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think that this, again, Bernstein is great, but he's not the best skating music, especially for a pattern dance.
You can make it work in a free dance.
Yeah.
It works great for a free dance. Rhythm dances, though, with prescribed rhythms, Bernstein doesn't do that.
Yeah,
exactly. He doesn't do prescribed rhythms.
There's no clear beat. Let's put it that way.
Which is why they have to have somebody scream beat to justify why there is a beat underneath Bernstein, because otherwise it sounds wrong.
Yeah. And it's a shame, too, because the free dance went very well.
The free dance
skated
went really well.
But obviously they were too far behind after Finnstep disaster in the rhythm dance.
Guys. Especially, and Zach tried so hard to make up for his mistake in the rhythm dance by singing this Bohemian Rhapsody program start to finish.
Well, and that's the thing too, is usually he's super into both of these programs. You could see him thinking about that Finnstep opening afterwards for the whole rest of that rhythm dance. Let's move on. 8th were Geliavieva and Tauron from France, who had a not bad competition here. I still really, really like their free dance. I think it's a really cool version of Carmen. And
I love that we've got 2 weird French Carmens this year.
I know. I'm excited for the battle of the weird French Carmens. Although I guess they probably won't be going head to head, but
because it's a junior and a senior, and those juniors are not moving up to senior for nationals.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I think of the weird French Carmens, I think I like this one a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just some of the lifts are really cool, and some of the choreographic movements. There's some really neat stuff in there.
They have pulled together this weird program, and you think, she's wearing teal. Why is Carmen playing? Because this isn't your typical Carmen.
This is weird French Carmen.
I love a weird French Carmen when they pick one version of Carmen and stick to it.
Yep.
That's my big problem with the junior weird French Carmen.
Yeah, the free dance for me is definitely their stronger program, and they placed a bit higher in that. The rhythm dance fulfills the letter of the law for the rhythm dance, but definitely not the spirit. They even got a music violation earlier on in the season, and they changed the from the original Jackson 5 to a cover of I Want You Back. Apparently these 3 pieces are technically from musicals, but again, it fulfills the letter, but definitely not the spirit of the rule.
The Daddy Cool musical.
Yes, which I never knew was a thing until they skated to it. Okay, I guess, again, it technically falls under it. This is not a Broadway program, though.
This is why we should have said no to jukebox musicals.
Yeah. I mean, there are some that are fun, like your Mamma Mia's
Mamma Mia is the reason they let you do a jukebox musical.
Or to be fair, even Sucies and Furiouses. I think that one's fun and fits the spirit of it. But this, again, does not. It's a fun program. And if it, just taken on its own, if this was from, 2014 and this was there, I would say this is a really fun program. It just, frustrates me a little bit that it so clearly is not in line with the requirements.
I always have to take a minute to go, what musical are... Oh, right, Daddy Cool. That musical I have never heard of outside of this one weird French program.
Well, and especially since, too, it's 2 musicals. There's some, I don't even remember what it's called, but some Jackson 5 musical.
Yeah.
Because it's not even the same artist. It's just a totally random assortment of pop songs, which, it's fun to watch, but this stands out like a sore thumb from all the other rhythm dances.
This is a program of pop songs that have been used in musicals.
Yes.
Which is different than a musical program.
Exactly. But I mean, no deductions here. And
I mean, it does fulfill the letter of the law. Yeah. I don't have to like it, but it does.
Yeah. And they skated it pretty well, I think. And obviously, I'm sure are very happy that they were able to, that the musical version, which I presume is what because they clearly they were using the Jackson 5 before, and this one was a cover, which I again presume is from whatever musical that was. At least it fits the tempo requirements, and it all went fine.
Or at least they assumed that the judges would go, well, it's not the actual Jackson 5.
Yeah, so it's probably, I mean, to be fair, I didn't look into it. That's just what I assumed, but
I didn't check. Let's be honest, the referee didn't check.
No.
And the judges didn't care enough to check.
Yeah. Another tiny little thing, but I am annoyed that, because again, in that ice dance tech meeting from Worlds last year, they said that they would be required to submit what musical it was from. And maybe they do to the referees, but it's not on their ISU bio. I've checked a few being like, which musical is this from? Oh, it doesn't say on their ISU bio. That would be helpful information.
So now I have to go and Google it and try and figure it out.
Yeah. It's really not hard to say, like, on their sheet, Daddy Cool by Boney M from Daddy Cool the musical. Like, that's all you have to put in, because they apparently have to submit it to you anyway.
Yeah, so just tell us.
Yeah.
The people who are like...
The ice dance nerds want to know.
Well, even the casual ice dance fans who are like, isn't this a musical year? What?
Yeah. How does this fit? Yeah. Would be good information, ISU. Just consider. Getting better at updating ISU bios with clear and accurate information.
Yeah.
9th were Skoptsova and Elation from Russia, who I think they were hurt a little bit by skating back-to-back weeks. You could see the
cracks.
Yeah, they weren't quite as sort of driving as they were last week.
Yeah.
And I think that's, they can be a really powerful team when they're skating really well. I think especially the free dance here, you could see they looked a little tired by the end of it.
Yeah. And the thing that sells these programs is the power.
Yep.
And so even if they had gotten the same levels, they would have gotten better GOE on another week, because they're usually faster and more powerful and more commanding on the ice.
Even just from the start of the free dance, like the stationary lift went a lot slower than it did last week.
It was barely rotating, and then they came to almost a dead stop on the 1 foot step.
Yeah.
Which
again, we talked about how hard that 1 foot step is, and obviously they also competed back-to-back weeks and couldn't change it based on feedback, but I think that's one where we might want to rethink that just 1 foot step.
Rotate it 90 degrees.
Well, or just, you can totally redo it. It's so open that, just do something that they can be confident in.
Yeah.
A lot of teams like to really rush the turns in the 1 foot step, where if you just take your time,
You as an ice dancer, if you cannot do the 6 or 7 turns required for a level 4 free dance or a level 4 1 foot step in the free dance when you're taking your time, you are in the wrong discipline.
Exactly. All of these skaters are capable of it, but so many of them just seem to rush it. Like, they just want to get it done. Whereas the teams who really succeed with it a lot of the times take their time with it and say, okay, let's take our time to get all the turns in and done correctly.
They don't allot enough time for this step sequence.
Exactly.
It is a step sequence. It is not a turn cluster.
Exactly. Yeah, and they looked disappointed with this result. Again, they did not want to be the third ranked Russian team here, but they as well have been coming off of injury and haven't had as much prep time. And again, going back-to-back weeks is never ideal.
Yeah.
You could see the cracks a bit here. I'll be interested to see what they look like at Russian Nationals once they've had a bit more time to work on and maybe change some things.
Yeah, they'll be an interesting one at Russian Nationals, because they could throw a wrench into things, or they might not at all.
Yeah. 10th were Tassari and Fioretti, who if you listen to us talk about the pairs, our last finishing team there, I felt was kind of unfairly scored. And this was another team where I was like, it really wasn't that bad, guys. The GOE was pretty stingy for what I felt were 2 pretty good programs. I think this is another team who've improved a lot since last year.
This GOE, they didn't get over a 1 in terms of value of GOE
for
on anything in the free dance.
Yeah.
It was not that bad.
I really quite liked both their programs, actually. And funnily enough, they're skating to almost the same music as Sinitsyn and Katsalapov in the rhythm dance. And I think it's really a similar program in a lot of ways in terms of the emotion. Obviously they're skating to some of the same songs, but GOE wise, it was a whole lot of 0s and 1s in there. And especially for that Finnstep, and to be fair, they were 3rd in the start order before some Finnstep disasters. Their Finnstep that got 0.11 plus GOE was way better than a lot of the other Finnsteps we saw.
That got higher GOE in some cases.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which, this is why we can't judge based on how early you skate.
Yep.
But what I was going to say is, also their PCS.
Yeah, that too.
They did slightly better on PCS in the rhythm dance than the free dance, which was weird. But they got a lot of 6.5s, which
Again, it was not that bad. I felt this was kind of harsh, this judging.
This was really harsh.
I wouldn't be going 10s and plus 5s, but this was another team where it was like you skated better than the score sheet really reflects.
You deserved a whole lot more plus 2s on your GOE than you got.
Yeah.
And a whole lot more like mid 7s in PCS.
Yeah.
They were like a point back everywhere, which would have made a huge difference.
Yeah.
It might not have been the full 10 points back that they were of 9th. But even if they had been 163 and still 10th, that would have made a difference.
Yeah. This was another team. I just felt kind of bad for them because I watched it and went, oh, that was nice. That was, and maybe it's just a question of expectation because I haven't seen a lot of them so far this season, and I felt they were much improved over last year.
Yeah. And everything was nice.
Yeah.
Everything was good.
And again, one of the better Finnsteps after, unfortunately, they went before some of the disasters. Maybe they would have been better rewarded if they went after.
If they had gone after even one of those disastrous Finnsteps, they would have done much better.
Yeah.
Because the judges got real nice about some mediocre Finnsteps after some disasters.
Yeah. Yeah. So a bit of a shame, but I hope they can,
Barbara's got them whipped into shape. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Technically, they did pretty well. And again, maybe with more competition experience, just keep skating like this and hopefully it'll all boost up eventually.
I mean, we know that Barbara is playing the long game with all of her teams.
Yeah.
She's like, we are fixing your cross rolls.
Of course.
If you don't get that joke, I'm sorry. I'm not going to explain it.
Too long.
It is way too a convoluted joke. We're working on your cross rolls and your other basic skating skills. And then eventually, all of a sudden, you'll be getting level 4s on everything because you can actually do things correctly.
Yep.
Barbara's playing the long game. It's working. Also, Barbara with her bright orange stopwatch is my favorite thing.
Yeah. They're in good hands, and hopefully, those scores will continue to go up and up as the season progresses.
Because they should.
Yep. All right. So I think that wraps up the dance. What was your highlight, if I have to ask?
I mean, Gilles and Poirier finally going back to the final.
Yep.
I am so excited.
And with 2 really strong skates, too.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they can do there.
I mean, this was great. I can't wait to see that rhythm dance at the final because it's going to have even more energy.
Yep.
And then they're probably going to cry at the end of the free dance.
Probably. Hopefully happy tears.
Yes.
But
I want happy tears at the end of the free dance at the final because it's been a minute since they've been there.
Yeah. This might be a bit of an out of the blue pick, but for me, seeing Shpilovaya and Smirnov here, so happy and saying, no, we are not going to be the 3rd ranked Russian team at this event.
And we are going to be solidly in the middle of the pack.
Exactly. I was really happy for them, and I hope that these good things continue to happen, because especially last year, this was a team where I was like, give them more things, Russian Federation. I still believe they deserved the host spot at Rostelecom last year.
They absolutely did. Do we not remember what happened at Rostelecom with the host pick last year?
Apparently we don't. But anyway, let's go back and listen if you don't remember. I'm sure we discussed them when we talked about it.
I'm sure we did, and I'm sure that we talked about Shpilovaya and Smirnov not being there.
Well, no, that's what I mean. Talking about Shpilovaya and Smirnov and how much they deserve to be there.
Yeah.
But yes, and in terms of the weekly Waxel, that goes to all the terrible Finnsteps that we had this rhythm dance.
Read all of them. Basically, everybody did a bad Finnstep.
This, in terms of Finnstep level competition wise, this was one of the worst ones.
Yep.
Like as a whole field.
Yep.
There were a lot. When you have 2 called interruptions and another one that probably should have been called an interruption, you've had a bad Finnstep day.
And there were other 1s and Bs that didn't get an interruption.
That we didn't even complain about as much because it wasn't as bad as some of the other ones. So
this was a disaster for the Finnstep. That Finnstep t-shirt is coming.
Gonna have all the messed up key point shirts.
I'm trying to come up with a different design so that it's not identical to the Tango Romantica one.
Yeah, if you have ideas, let us know.
But that Finnstep one is coming because this alone earned you that. If the last 2 weeks hadn't, this would have sealed it.
All right, so I think that wraps us up for this first half of Rostelecom. We'll be back soonish with the other 2 disciplines. We'll see how many we get done today.
We're going to try and get as many of them as we can, but, it's Sunday.
Yeah.
There are things that need to get done today.
Yeah, life is busy. But thank you all for listening, and please let us know your thoughts about this week in figure skating at flutzescast@gmail.com. You can also follow us at Flutzescast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for even more skating content.
Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/flutzescast, for lots of fun stuff, including a book club on Adam Rippon's new book, and our merch store for that Finnstep t-shirt when it comes out, flutzescast.redbubble.com. And if you like what we do, consider leaving us a review wherever you're listening. We'll be back soon with the rest of Rostelecom, but until then, keep a watchful eye out for those Flutzes and Waxel skating fans.